You are now listening to For All Nerds Show, a podcast about geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color. For All Nerds is hosted by DJ BenHaMeen and Tatiana King DJ. For All Nerds Show is a member of the Loudspeakers Network, where we always say rest in peace to our founder, Combat Jack.
For All Nerds Show is powered by our listeners. Everything we do, from our podcasts, live events, our website, are all independently funded. Please continue to support us through our Patreon page at patreon.com/forallnerds.
Welcome to the Fan Bros, the show where the bros are fans. Doodle.
And what's up, y'all, and welcome to a legendary episode of the For All Nerds Show. The voice of the urban geek, the podcast where we discuss geek and pop culture according to people of color, the perspective of people of color, all that good stuff. As always, I'm not even supposed to be here tonight. It's your boy DJ BenHaMeen, a.k.a. Lionel Richie, Bid Fetch, De La Troll, Ready Hater One, Bernie Slanders, Little Drummer Monkey Boy, Toss a Coin to your Ninja, Blart Bent, Buzz Ouchia, here in the spaceship tonight. I had to bring out all my hater AKAs because, it is the haters ball tonight. And as always, I am joined by
Tatiana King, a.k.a. I'm dreaming of a Walter White Xmas, a.k.a. Kuji Chagalia down to the socks, a.k.a. Lambo Calrissian, a.k.a. Flex Luthor, a.k.a. Dame Diner Dash, a.k.a. He Who Cannot Be Shamed, a.k.a. Doctor Doing Something Strange for Some Change, and I'm also here with great regret.
Not even supposed to be here tonight. Shout out to Clerks, one of the best movies ever. And tonight we will be talking about something that is not one of the best movies ever. Hold on, I need to sip something.
Yeah, well, while BenHaMeen is sipping and taking his time,
let me cool off.
He needs to cool off because we're here to talk about Avatar. We got to see Avatar 2, or Avatar: The Way of Water, as it's titled. Directed by James Cameron. Written screenplay, rather, by James Cameron of the True Lies, Terminator, and a whole bunch of other fame that makes him, quote unquote, a legend.
He is. No.
Is.
One of the goats.
That wasn't shade. That was for real.
Okay. Because quote unquote sometimes to be shade, you know.
Oh no, that wasn't that. You'll hear the shade later.
Okay.
That wasn't shade. Rick Jaffa, who he wrote Rise of the Planet of the Apes 2011, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes 2014, and Jurassic Park 2015. And along with his wife, Amanda Silver, who also wrote on those aforementioned films.
Wait a minute, Rise, that's the first one, right?
That's the first.
With Franco?
Correct.
Yeah. God damn it. I mean, that shit is like legendary. Like, Rise is, that's like such a great screenplay.
So, BenHaMeen, I know when we got to I almost said the funeral, when we got to the theater, you told me you rewatched Avatar 1, the first Avatar.
Yes, I did.
And considering that was 15 big years ago, how did you feel rewatching it?
All right. Honestly, I have not seen Avatar since 15 years ago because I saw it twice in the theater then. I thought it was one of the most amazing theater experiences I've ever had in my life. I will never forget the feeling of looking to the right in the theater and seeing them little floaty things that are always in the forest in Pandora floating in the air.
Oh, you was in the big 3D situation.
Yes,
okay,
and that shit was like legit floating in the theater, you know, like the only other 3D I've ever seen like that was Captain EO at Disney World and the Muppets 3D at Disney World. Disney World back in the day had, and they probably still have it, they have the best 3D I'd ever seen at the time, and it was like stupefying as a kid. I was like, what the fuck, you know, is this? Like, things were floating in the air, you know, like, it was stupid. So Avatar 1 in the theater was so crazy that I saw it twice. Even though the first time I saw it, I was like, this is one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen. And the racism is heavy, and I'm not sure what's going on, but the theater experience was so crazy that I had to see it again. So
go ahead.
I really haven't watched it like that since. I've seen it in bits and
Okay.
pieces, whatever. But it's on Disney Plus right now, so I was like, all right, let me get ready. Before, just to add to that, James Cameron is one of my favorite directors of all time. Like, Terminator is one of my favorite films and scripts. He's also a screenwriter, and he's one of my favorite screenwriters. Like, the screenplay for Terminator is such a sick screenplay. The way it moves, the way it delivers information. I always talk about the scene in the car between Reese and Sarah when Reese is driving, trying to escape the police, and he's telling her the whole story of Terminator in the future. And it's some bullshit. It's like some outlandish shit. But because all this action is taking place, we as an audience eat it up. So he's one of my favorites. I rewatched Terminator. I rewatched Terminator 2. I rewatched True Lies. And then I watched Avatar. And rewatching Avatar, out of those four, it was easily the least. It was like, God damn, dog, like, you're the man, and this ain't it. Like, rewatching it, it doesn't even look that dope to me. It's like, and we all know, it's Pocahontas. It's, what is the other movie they always say it is? That other joint, Fern Gully. It's, not Last of the Mohicans. The one about the Native Americans with Kevin Costner. I can't remember the damn name of the movie. But it's all of those white savior ass movies rolled into one. And rewatching it, it's even more problematic, I would say, than I thought it was back then. It's just a really weird movie about white people cosplaying as the Na'vi. The Na'vi being constantly referred to as savages, and also whooping and hollering like they're Native Americans from a terrible Cowboys and Indians movie from back in the day. Really was grating on me. Jake Sully grated on me in a way. I mean, Sam Worthington was never my dude like that, but it was really hurting me rewatching this film. So overall, I was like, But having watched True Lies, Terminator, and Terminator 2, I was like, all right, my man James Cameron, I'm not going to doubt my dog, He going to give me something. Because, like, he's so good and he want to be. Like, I was telling you this when we were leaving the joint. George Lucas, as much as Star Wars, he's a visionary. But as a director, But James Cameron as a director, he's that dog. Like, he's what people, be talking about, who's Terminator? I mean, not Terminator, Transformers.
Oh, Michael Bay?
Yeah, you know how people are like, oh, no, James Cameron to me is that he's the action god. And then I'll give Nolan a lot, too. Nolan be, bringing it right now. Yeah, and Michael Bay has his own style, which I actually appreciate when Michael Bay is on Michael Bay, like The Rock and shit. That is, he's Michael Bay put that work in. Don't sleep on that dude.
Mm-hmm. The question I had for you, which I think you answered, was you talked a lot about how great a movie-going experience Avatar first was, but you didn't say how the story was, and I guess you started answering that actually. Okay, I just wanted like a summarized clip note of what you thought about the story.
I mean, even rewatching it, I couldn't say there was anything about it where I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Okay,
I don't really get how people take this whole spiritual thing from it. I guess because of the lack of spirituality in the world. Maybe
I think that's a good premise to start.
This movie is like like that bad date you go on where somebody's like, yo, you ever heard about spirituality? That's how these Avatar movies feel. Yeah.
The first one had a story. And this one did not. Okay. You can try and say it did. I challenge anyone to tell me in one sentence, that's not more than 4,444 characters, what this movie was about once you see it. Tell me, please.
It's a story about family.
It's not Dominic Toretto. It's not a Fast and Furious family. It has, and here's the thing. This film has those elements to it. And this film, as in Avatar 2, this film is it's a film about environmentalism. It's a film about whaling. It's a film about dumbass kids. It's a film about trusting your kids. It's a film about family. It's a film about what happens when you give a legendary director unlimited money and no one says no. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things, and I don't think it's anything at once. It's kind of an amorphous blob to me, where it's everything and nothing, right? Like if you Pokemon, old school Pokemon, it's a ditto. It can reflect everything, but it's also nothing at the same time. It doesn't quite have true form to it. And that is my overarching complaint about Avatar 2. That being said, we are going to give you a more in-depth understanding of how we feel. We're not just going to trash it or anything like that. It's lots of notes, though. Lots of notes about this film. Ben, I mean, that being said, let's say something that we liked or something that's really good about Avatar 2.
Okay, but before I do want to say one other thing about what you just said about it being an amorphous blob, or in other words, a hot-ass mess. Another movie that I saw this year that I thought was a hot-ass mess was Don't Worry, Darling by Olivia Wilde.
Oh.
And it, in fact, the same ridiculous situation happens in this movie. I'll tell you off air because I don't want to spoil, but it was so hilarious that this same dumb situation happened in both movies. But the problem with it is that, like you said, there's a lot of things happening, but one criticism of Don't Worry, Darling that I feel applies to Avatar 2 is that a lot of things happen that you could say is a movie, but I really wouldn't say is a movie in the traditional sense. Or what we, learn of movies. I felt like this had some National Geographic moments, and
it felt like that's a great analogy. It felt like I was watching an episode of what they call it, Wild Planet, or whatever that be on Nat Geo.
That don't exist.
Wild Planet. It's them things on Nat Geo where they be like going to random corners of the earth, like in the Marianas Trench, or in the fucking deep Amazon where there's these fucking 10-headed animals and shit that you've never seen before. And I know that's technically where he takes a lot of the inspiration, especially when he's building out the world of Pandora and all the other stuff. But I'm just like, what was the story?
All right, we'll get to that. Yeah, crickets. We'll get to that though. Something nice. So. When it looks good, it looks incredible. I will say that without a doubt. When it looks good, it is one of the most beautiful films that you'll see. It's something you can definitely see on a big ass giant screen in 3D. And when everything is clicking, it works. That's saying something nice, right? Let me stop there. Okay, now what?
You want to stop there? Okay.
Yeah,
so let me say my nice stuff. Yeah. I agree with you. I think this is absolutely beautiful movie. The 3D is incredibly well done. Opening shot. I was playing games, but I was also serious. Like, you back in the forest, you see vines and shit coming towards you. I was reaching for it. Like, I was sitting next to BenHaMeen, so I was reaching for it. Like, I was trying to swing around, and he was with it. But I again, from a design and when it worked, the graphics, it worked. It was gorgeous. There's no denying the technology behind it. How much, when you look at things like the mocap, when you're talking about the characters, the actors playing those characters, and it's kind of what's the word? It's kind of like Inception almost, right? You have a mocap of people playing characters who are avatars of characters. You understand? So it's like levels to it. So I thought that was pretty cool, again, to see this again. And I, like you, I didn't really watch Avatar 1 beyond the 15 years ago. I didn't even realize it was 15 years. So it was an improvement in terms of level and quality, but the level and quality of the one at that time was the top in terms of bringing about the experience of a world that did not exist. And of course, unfortunately, also it could be to his detriment based on things that we know of this world. Because and again, you're a human being, you're going to base stories you write off of things you know or dreams you have, but inherently they are going to be flawed, especially when you bring about things like your personal experiences. If you're a white man, you have certain personal experiences that's going to flow through to your stories too. And it is what it is, right? Good or bad, right? Those are going to flow through. And you see that quite a lot. But yes, the way this thing looks, if you're here just about aesthetics, if you don't care shit else about what's going on in Avatar, I just want to see the way it looks. I just want to wear my 3D glasses and have a great time. Whatever. This is all you. This is all you, boo. You're going to have a fantastic time. You're going to be trippy. It's going to be trippy and tripped out and all that other stuff. The character design, amazing. The costuming within the character design, amazing. The world itself, the animal kingdom and the expanded animal kingdom, because as the title is saying, you are now seeing the ocean and the water folk, as well as the animals or the beings that live within the sea. So you're gonna go from the forest to the sea. So you're gonna see that what do they call it? Like the bestiary or the zoology of the planet?
Yep. Bestiary. That's a good one.
That, like, if you are very much, and that's why also it's very National Geographic. If you're very much into that creature design, character design, out of this world type stuff that's like unlike other things you've seen, this is the film for you. Absolutely. You want to see something? Here you go. If you want a story,
we'll get to that.
News for you.
I also want to say when we did our review for Wakanda Forever, I remember saying myself that Avatar 2 had a lot to prove with the water shots, because I thought that they really did a great job in Wakanda Forever and portraying people underwater and everything. I thought Avatar 2 did as well. I cannot front. Yeah. Like, it's brightly lit. That's something I really love.
That's my only complaint about Wakanda Forever. I thought many underwater scenes, even though it made sense at the time, many underwater scenes were too dark.
And this is not that. And not even that. There's a lot of fighting and a lot of CGI, obviously, in bright daylight on ocean, which is very impressive. So that is like, yeah.
But it's also easier to animate things in bright daylight.
No, you can hide. No, you hide things easier in darkness. That's why you always
can hide things. But I'm just saying,
in darkness.
Yeah, but if you're just trying to show everything, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. So they weren't hiding anything. Everything is right there. Anything. It looks really good. I will say that it's a technical achievement there.
Absolutely.
All right, now the story.
Before we since we're talking about graphics and stuff. There was a problem we both had with these graphics. And not so much the graphics, but I guess this falls into the cinematography lane.
It does. Oof. All right. And I'd heard about this beforehand, right? So I saw a thread where they were talking about how James Cameron was going to revolutionize film with this movie, like he did with Avatar. And one of the things he was going to bring to the forefront was 60 frames per second. And I immediately was like, oh, wow. I didn't even know it was shot in 60 frames. And there's a Will Smith joint from a few years back by, I think it's John Woo who even did it. And it was shot in 60 frames per second. At the time, I was like, ooh, wow, I don't want to see that. That's going to be a hot mess. And I've actually seen parts of it on TV, and it was like, yeah, whatever. And for those who don't understand frame rate or whatever, film for 100 plus years now has been shot at 24 frames per second, because there are 24 frames that will roll through a camera per second, thus creating the illusion of film. It's 24 still photography frames that roll through a camera per second, frames per second, that creates the illusion of film. So the look of film has always been established at 24 frames per second. Yes. Even when people shoot digitally, they try and recreate that frame. Like that was the big problem with digital when people first started shooting digital, because digital was shooting naturally at like 30 frames per second. Even like something like a VHS, is shooting at, a VHS tape is not shooting at the same frame rate as film. So that's why people wouldn't shoot film on VHS back in the day. They would still shoot on film. It's infinitely cheaper because it just didn't look like film. So then when you have the advent of digital cameras, they can do all these frame rates. They can do 24, they can do 30, and now they can do 60. People are like, fuck it, And for people who
we'll do it live, fuck
it. People who grew up like Tatiana, where it was like, in video games, it was from 30. I mean, it started before that, and then it got to 30, and then to 60 now. And to me, I've never been that impressed. I understand for like fighting games, 60 frames per second helps you because you get every frame, so that way you can, counter. But when you're playing something like Spider-Man, I've played the 60 frames per second with the highest. I got the PS5 all maxed out, And I still prefer even the 30 with the maxed out. Because it's just a little too smooth for me. It starts to look like a VHS.
And here's the thing that I want people to understand, because a lot of people still don't, like, some people will watch this and be like, what the hell are y'all talking about?
Yep.
So, like BenHaMeen said, typical movies, 99% of movies generally at this point, if you go to the theater, look at Jurassic Park, for example. We talked about Jurassic Park earlier. One of the writers wrote that, the 2015 version.
Yep.
All the Jurassic Parks you've seen, as far as I know, I'm not talking about the one you watch at home, I'm talking about in the theater, it's been like 24 frames per second. And it looks cinematic. It has a cinematic look to it. Some games have also tried to go the cinematic route, so it looks more like you're sitting in a theater. However, traditionally, you've seen the 60 frames per second where they try to make it look, the realism aspect, they say it looks like your eyes, you know how you look around in the world. And I personally think seeing a film in 60 frames per second looks like ass.
Yes. I never, A lot of people know it from...
I don't want to see that.
Yep. A lot of people know it from television when they have the motion smoothing effect, which is also known as the soap opera effect, where things look like a soap opera, because soap operas have always been shot on tape because they're shooting every day. So it looks like your eyes almost, it's still a little not like your eyes, but it's almost. So it's like a soap opera. You're looking into the room.
Right.
And that when I see film like that, it throws me off because I know the director didn't shoot it like that. He shot it in 24. Like whenever you're watching Pulp Fiction and suddenly Samuel Jackson looks like he's sitting in
it's like he's starting to move at light speed because he's moving at human eye speed. It's like, wait a minute.
That's because they've added frames to it digitally. AI adds digital frames to it so to make it 30 or 60 even. But back to Avatar 2, James is all over the place. Mr. Cameron switches frame rates like he is flipping through a deck of cards. It don't matter, baby. Like 1 second is 24, one shot is 30, all in the same scene. It will switch from 24, 30 to 60, 24, 24, 30.
And Ben
60,
is not exaggerating.
60, 24,
literally
30, 60, 30, 60, 24.
Literally before our eyes. Before our eyes in the same scene within seconds and literal seconds. It could be a character going from point A to point B in seconds. It would be 24 one moment and 60 the next. And it is jarring. It's jarring. Now, everyone, and as people are listening, you can say, well, that's your personal preference about whether you want 24 or 60. Fine. But pick one. Pick
a frame rate.
Pick a frame rate throughout the film. Or if you do want to change it up, do it sparingly. He does it whether it's nighttime, daytime, underwater, over water.
Doesn't matter.
It's just like, you know what? In this scene, I want them to be moving like human eyes. In this scene, I want to look like a PS4 cutscene.
In this shot, not in this scene. Every shot damn near can be different. It won't even be two shots back to back.
Not an exaggeration. And then it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, and again, maybe some people may not pick up on the differences, but we did, and it was very jarring.
I can't imagine. And for me, especially, it was just hard to get adjusted to 3D in the first place. And then every time the frame rate switches, it's like your eyes have to get adjusted to it at a different time. And beyond that, for me, I just love how film looks. So there'd be shots, there's a big fight sequence, most of the last hour or so is a nice fight sequence. And some of that looks so sick because it's in film-like. And then in the same scene, it'll switch to where it's like I'm watching a PS5 cutscene. Yeah. And I won't say it looks like no PS3 or no bullshit like that. No, this shit is
PS5, and I meant to say PS5 earlier. But
PS6 even. It's some shit.
It's the top of the model PS5, but it's still, again, and that's what I'm saying. I felt like, and again, whether this is your personal preference or not, I think it's besides the point because it took me out of the story so much. It was one time, half of the movie was a game, the other half was a film. Which one is it? Sure, the lines have blurred when you look at things like God of War and all these other stuff where it is story within film, within a game. Great. But they are consistent. They are consistent in these mediums. This is and that bothered me, that the inconsistency to me took away from the experience for me, because I'm like, if I'm going to be in Pandora in 60 frames per second, well, God damn it, keep it. I think as he was doing it, he was like, you know what? This looks like ass. Let me go back to 24. There's no other explanation. It was like, you know what? This does look fucking wild in not a good way.
But why not just stick with it? Why not pick a struggle? Like, that's the thing, because I remember early on, there's a shot in 60, and I was like, fuck. But, fuck it. It's all going to be in 60. I'll get used to it. Nope. It wasn't. It was not.
And BenHaMeen and I, again, we didn't really talk to nobody up in there. But when we were leaving, there was one, because we sat in there just dying, right? So there was one person still there with us when all the credits were over. We walked out together. And just because like we were that shocked, we did a sense check. We said, hey, excuse me, did you notice this? And the woman we spoke to was like, yeah. And then she started naming out the frame rate stuff. We were like, okay, we're not crazy.
And she said it looked beautiful. And I was like, ugh. But then immediately she's like, I didn't understand the frame rate choice. And I was like, okay. We on the same page here. All right. And improvement over the last Avatar, I personally say hell to the nah. Because it's like that frame rate choice, dog.
But that's not the only reason. It's just that just.
Oh no, I'm just talking about cinematography. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of cinematography, no, it was not an improvement. No.
If
you're just talking about the contents, again, the bestiary, the floral and fauna and all this other stuff. Yeah. That shit was an improvement. And when I say improvement, you just saw more. You saw more, and you know why? Because it's 3 hours, 12 minutes.
I saw one Twitter. All right, we're gonna talk about the tweet reviews beforehand too, where people were just like overly hyped. And I saw one cat be like, "Oh, I was just staring at the fish and stuff," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean the fish look dope, fam.
Look good.
Yeah, but come on, fam.
But was this a movie about the fucking fish or what?" This is what I'm talking about. And I'm saying, I think it really, really, truly depends on what are you going to this for. Are you going to see the fucking fish? You're going to have a fucking blast. Nothing else matters.
And like for me, I'm like, nah, fam, because I get it. Maybe it will, encourage people to really think about environmentalism and saving our one planet that we have.
You should. And you know why? Because of Nat Geo, I've actually seen how whalers get, trap and what do they go? Trap and hunt whales. And they literally repeated it in this.
Yes, they did.
Film. And it's horrible. And so I would say this film continues at the same like the first film. It does a great job at showing you how dare you deface and disrespect the planet? How dare you, and how much you're hurting everybody and everything living in it. Yes, that is 100% there.
I also think it gives people a false hope that there's some other planet that they can go to and colonize, just like they've done this one.
Y'all remember why in the first Avatar, why they even on Pandora in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Because Earth is dying.
Yeah.
Like it's happening now. So it's fucked up.
There's like two instances of capitalism now on Pandora, and the numbers seem light. When I rewatched the first one, and this
those numbers he said was very light.
I was like, this
very light.
And rewatching the first one, it's the same thing. I was like, that's all the money y'all making for this? Like,
no, that's very light. They said that in this, we're doing this and we making XYZ money. Don't you mean billions? I was waiting for that nigga to say I was making billions off of this.
Broke.
Like what they was mining, whatever the fuck they was mining, the fucking spice over there that they was mining. And I'm like, y'all niggas making billions. They said millions. I said, what?
Like, nigga, if I'm leaving the planet, it better be trillions, nigga. At the least quadrillions. Let's go, baby. Come on, quintillions, sextillions. Where do you want to go to?
I mean, because you're in outer space, my God. That's what I'm saying. The station that y'all came in on, that y'all pulled up on, is
5
quadrillions.
years. 5 years of your life.
Y'all gotta go to cryo sleep to get here, my nigga. And I'm making 80 million? 80 million ain't shit.
Niggas play basketball.
Twitter was sold for like
season.
What, 44 billion? Are you dead ass?
LeBron making that in a year, no problem. No cryo sleep, not even playing basketball. All right.
Well, I'm sorry. One more good thing about the cinematography I did want to mention, just the vastness that you get to see because it's so. And I'm not necessarily complaining about the length of the film. I knew it was going to be that long, except for the 12 minutes. I knew it was going to be that long going into. The 12 minutes fucked me up, but I knew it was going to be 3 hours going into. So I was like, all right, well, we're going to see more of the flowers than they were and all that shit. And that shit was fantastic. Again, the vastness of the planets and the importance of the animals and all that shit.
It was also like the same damn plants though too. Like it was like, oh, here's the underwater version of it. You know, it was
literally the underwater version of the plants you saw an hour ago.
Yeah, it was like, hold up, dog. Like, oh.
And that's
Wakanda Forever is still in theaters right now.
I'm getting so mad right now because we're about to start talking about the part that starts. Really
shout out to Wakanda Forever for being winning 5 weeks in a row, #1. Also, let's just say that, you know, before Avatar comes out, clap for you because Avatar about to take the #1 spot.
I think
no
it might.
What.
Yeah.
No matter what, you know. But,
niggas want to see fish.
Yeah, but clap. And white people want to see a white people fantasy. So, oh, it's gonna get everybody. All right, so clap for Wakanda Forever. Not so much for, I almost said clap for, no. All right, what are the themes of the film?
I said it earlier. I don't know if you want to add on to that list.
No, I think it's family, you know, environmentalism, frame rate.
Kids are stupid.
Kids are stupid. Parents are stupid.
Parents are stupid. White men are dangerous.
Oof.
Sky people are dangerous. Like that's all it keeps coming across.
Big thing. But
he's also their savior, so
yes,
I don't know.
Yeah, and
he's
also
still fucking savior of the world.
Also, being evil is okay. Like
interracial marriage. Interspecies marriage. Excuse me.
Yeah. The illusion of interracial marriage, I think.
Avatars for analogy of people of color in a very badly done way.
Have you seen the Young White Avatar episode of Atlanta yet?
No.
Okay, well, you need to.
Oh, no, I have, with the rappers, right? The young white rappers?
Yes, Young White Avatar.
And they was your avatars, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if should we get into the character, should we get into the story or lack thereof?
Let's get into the story or lack thereof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Everyone knows this is Avatar 2, and, you know, without any spoilers, even though some of this will be spoiler, we're not going to hold back. You know, we also won't just
we're not going to give major
things away, but, you know, we've been drinking and smoking, and it is what it is at this point. And also, I really, like we said, me and Tatiana were talking about this, there's not much of a plot to give away. Like, you already know the basic plot, right? This takes place 5 years after the first Avatar. Sam Worthington, Jake Sully, is now living amongst the people. He's been permanently transformed into his Avatar body. He has a family. He has kids.
Fantastic. Congratulations to you, sir. Like, that's fantastic.
He's gone all the way
I'm not
Blueface.
like trying to be shady. Like, it really is fantastic. That's happiness. Great.
I mean, look at that. You are now a person of color. You know, you get to be a nigga without, you know, being called one. You know,
his locks have grown. His braids, locks, whatever.
All right, that's something I noticed rewatching the first one. Thank you. Let me bring this up because I'm going to post a Twitter thread about the evolution of Jake Sully's hair. When he starts out in his Avatar in the first movie, he has long, straight hair. That's it.
The marine buzz
tied
cut
into a ponytail because he's, you know, straight up. And when he's fresh out the bed, he wakes up in the bed, long, straight hair. He starts rolling with the natives a bit, meets Shorty, then he gets the braid up. You know, he got the braid up. Of course, Sigourney Weaver already had the little beads in her braids from Jump, but that's a whole... Sigourney Weaver's character in the first movie is a whole nother story.
There's a whole nother story.
So then Jake, you know, got the little braid up, and then by the end of the film, my man is fully braided up, face paint, all kind of native wear, everything full on in his cosplay, and then fully transforms himself into a person of color, allegedly, you know, jumps into their body after spending 3 months with them. I want to point that out too as well. That was the thing I noticed in my rewatching. My man spent a summer vacation with the Na'vi and is suddenly King Na'vi. White people fantasy. It is like the greatest white people fantasy ever is the first Avatar. I mean, it's one of them. I mean, he straight up is. You know, he rides the biggest dragon that no one could conquer since Shorty's grandfather's day.
Wait, so he's Aegon? Blah. So he's Aegon?
Aegon the Conqueror. You know what I mean? We know how that ended up. Not well. No. Yeah. So that's something I noticed since the first one. So that's where we're at in the second one. He's now, chief or whatever. It's been 5 years. He got his whole family with him. And drama's coming where he's going to have to learn the way of the water people, which is another tribe that we actually do see in the first one. Because at the end of the first one, he gathers up the tribes of the four winds, as they say. And the water people are one, or they don't mention the water people, but like the coastline people are one of them. So I guess that's them as well. Whatever. Yeah, that's these guys now. So he has to go meet the water people, and we get to see the whole water world of Avatar. Oh,
and they start water bending.
Wet World? What's that?
I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, but wasn't one with Kevin Costner, Water World, right? Yeah, that ended badly too.
Yeah, Water World.
Yeah, that ended. Ooh. Kevin Costner once again. See, first Dances with Wolves. That was the name, because I know people have already said it many times. Twitch.tv/forallnerds in the comments, but it's Dances with Wolves and now Water World. 2 Kevin Costner movies in a row that Avatar has imitated. Well done. And I mean imitating him being a terrible movie.
Yeah.
In both cases. For different reasons.
And again, the other reason, besides, like I said, I called it an amorphous blob. The reason why I'm so adamant that there's no true story is because it's extremely difficult for me to even explain what has occurred, what has taken place, what has transpired. Similar to like when someone
felt
asked
like a retread of the first movie, except in the water.
Oh, definitely. But similar. What I'm going to say here is similar to when someone asks you to define a word and you have trouble doing, or you define it using the word. It's because you don't quite understand it, and I don't understand the point here, and that's part of why I feel there's no story, because I can't even speak to what the story could have been. Again, besides the general themes we saw. It was, you got a general theme and then 45 minutes of meandering off of that theme.
Yes.
So if there was like
off to another theme,
5 or 6, maybe more themes, you wouldn't get a through line story. Besides Jake Sully, sure. You wouldn't necessarily get a through line story, but you would get, for example, they would go, this purple flower over here is pretty. Well, let's see how this purple flower was planted and how it grew through its life cycle. And what about the people who was involved in the planting of this flower? And what about their tribe? And what about their daughter and son? Like, it starts going down these individual rabbit holes, and it does this constantly. It keeps going down these detours. Every time you think you're about to like move forward in the story, there's a detour. And it's like, let's
talk about these whales.
Let's talk about these whales real quick. And migration and whaling and how it's evil. Okay, fine. All right, the story's moving forward. We got to talk about deforestation and all this other shit and why burning down trees ain't good and da-da-da-da.
I mean, they didn't really talk about that, though. They just burned down some trees.
But do you understand? But it took, and that's the other part. Sometimes they even talk about it. It was just a detour for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Or 5 for that one.
This happened throughout the film. There would be a theme, kinda, and then a detour down that theme for 30 to 45 minutes. And I know I said that the film is 3 hours and 12 minutes long. The last scene lasted an hour and a half.
Hour. I mean, because it's like 2 scenes. There's a daylight fight and then there's a dark fight. And both of those are about an hour together.
It's the same location, Ben. Think about
the whole thing's a location. They all know.
No. This specific location was night and day in the same location.
Well, first they're rolling around that location and then they're on that location. And I'm not saying you can't have a movie in the same location. There's movies that do that all the time. But to be an hour and 12 minutes, maybe not a half, sure, an hour 12 minutes in the same space, about the same screaming, the same yelling, the same fighting, it's just meandering so much. And that's why, like, again, just going back to why I'm like, it's hard for me to grasp the underpinnings of story. I think that's something else we need to bring up as character while we're talking about story, right? And that is going to be, because especially with us, For All Nerds, it's probably going to be one of our biggest issues with this film that a lot of reviewers are probably going to skip over and not mention, right?
And that's fine.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's on them.
Yeah.
But Jake Sully alone, has been the starter since the first one. He is now living amongst, the rest of the Na'vi. And it's highly problematic, to say the least, right? Jake Sully alone is just super weird. It's super wild that this man basically put on blueface permanently and becomes, one of them. And it's
And he's still himself.
I mean, it's like
too.
Get Out. It's like the dude inhabits a black body. It's.
Yeah.
And
but you notice that he's integrated, but he's also not quite 100% integrated because he still acts like a Marine in half the time. Half the time he's still Marine Jake Sully versus Na'vi Jake Sully. And I guess that's also a potential theme of Cameron's. Just you are, you're a person of two worlds and great. But in this context, I find it, to Ben's point, problematic. Like, you would think now that you've fully integrated and become king of the Na'vi and all this other stuff, that you would drop all that bullshit. And granted, some of that bullshit has helped your now people, but you would drop some of that. I don't even want to say culture, but you would drop, maybe it is culture. You would drop some of that things that is completely antithesis to the people you are now a part of.
Well, that's brainwashing that's put into you.
Sure.
But at the same time, I feel you. It just, if you rewatch the first one, like I said, it just read so weird, that this dude comes out of nowhere. He's not a scientist, so they accept him because he's a Marine, and because he's a Marine, he's more accepted than the scientists who've been trying to be accepted for all this time.
He won their trust, BenHaMeen. He won their trust
because he gets with their shorty. He won
their trust, BenHaMeen.
It's a wildly weird movie, but like we say, we're talking about the second one. And in the second one, he now has this family, and that becomes one of the biggest issues of the film. And this is all not spoiler because this has all been out there. If you're looking at information, if you're listening to this long, you already know. Anyway, he has his family, right? He's married to Zoe Saldana's character, Neytiri. They have 4 children. They have, right?
They have, I didn't name all the children, but they have Kiri,
Loak.
Kiri's played by Sigourney Weaver, who, can I just...
Yeah, we
can also say she was in the first one, but this is not towards what you're thinking. I was just gonna say, I just thought for it to be such a young child to have Sigourney's voice come out her body was weird to me. It was just like, you sound like a grown ass woman and you're like 12. So I was confused, but go ahead.
Yeah, and Kiri, as everybody knows, is played by Sigourney Weaver. I don't really even want to get into who she is. It's just a wild choice and why she's part of the family, because she's not the biggest part of the problematic part of the family. So we might get back to that, we might not. So he got her, who's an adopted daughter, right? I'll say that she's an adopted daughter, and then he has his other kids who are by Neytiri.
I was gonna say biracial.
No, because we're about to get into that. And then there is another child amongst the children of this film named Spider. And like we say, if you've looked into this film at all, you already know this. Spider is a young Caucasian boy who was left behind on Pandora when all the military and all the scientists got thrown out by the Na'vi. Because he was too young to make the trip back. He was raised with them, and so he hangs out with the Na'vi and the scientists and stuff who are left behind. Really, they're like, all right, what up, Spider, whatever, but they don't really mess with him like that.
BenHaMeen.
Spider is portrayed by a young actor named Jack Champion. Yeah. And in his portrayal, he has blonde dreads and pretty much looks like a young Tarzan and acts like a Na'vi and hangs out with the Na'vi. And by acting like a Na'vi, I mean he hisses and whatnot. And I'm just going to get into where I just fucking lost it in this movie theater. Like maybe 10, 15 minutes into this movie I think it's his first introduction. As soon as you meet this damn little boy.
As soon as you meet the little boy,
he is putting on blue makeup to look like the Na'vi. He is basically putting on blue face. And I don't mean the rapper. He is putting on blue face like he is putting on black face. And he tells his friend, one of the Na'vi children, I'm doing this because the animals respect me more when I go out amongst them. And I think he also says it makes him faster.
He believes. Now, let's give him a little bit of grace. He's a child. But towards that point, why didn't any, as you said it here, Ben, why didn't somebody slap the shit out of him right there?
Now, I get it. This planet doesn't know about blue
That's what I'm
face,
saying.
black face.
That's not a thing. That's not a
It's
thing.
not a thing. They're aliens, blah, blah, blah. And I'm always the first person to be like, yo, you can't just say every alien is doing, representative of us. Like when it's a black person playing an alien from another planet, that doesn't mean they're black and they're thinking about black things on planet Earth, because they're not. They're from another planet. Right. But when you do have aliens representing, and it is such a blatant representation of native cultures, and it's such a problematic representation of indigenous and native cultures,
especially the sea
which
tribes,
is its own
they are
issue
directly analogous to the Maori people and other people that were mixed together, Pacific Islanders.
All right. And then there's also, the original Na'vi that we knew, which were also very problematic because they were related more to like Native Americans. And they always, especially when I rewatch it, they sound like you're watching some Cowboys and Indians movie with John Wayne when they're hooting and hollering. It just sounds really weird when they're going to war. But back to this, and back to my man Spider putting on Blueface. When you have that representation happening in a movie, and when you have him saying, it makes me faster and it gets me more respect in the hood, like he's a little black boy saying, yo, this shit makes me get respect in the hood when I put on the black face.
Put on his Jordan 1s.
Yeah, literally putting on makeup on his face. Like the Jordan 1s.
It's all over his body. But it's all over his body.
Where's it all over his body throughout the movie?
And to be clear, it's not like a mask of blue. It's like he's trying to simulate the tiger stripe looking blue stripes that be all over the Nazi.
But he was also trying to paint it on his face, and that's when they stopped him.
He was trying.
That's when they stopped him. So we didn't have to watch the whole movie of this little kid in Blueface, which would have been hilarious.
BenHaMeen, I just have one question. Why is this Wild Thornberry's looking ass nigga all up and down this movie? And when I say he is an integral main character in this Odyssey, why is he all up and down the film, but you do not see him in any promo?
I'm going to call this the Jar Jar Binks effect. For those who don't know, if you've ever seen the Phantom Menace trailer, and you can go watch it on YouTube right now, there is a shot of Jar Jar Binks, and I'll tell you the shot because this is how many times I've seen the Phantom Menace trailer. He leans over and he puts his hand onto a wall and he says not a word. And you're like, oh my God, look at that CGI. Like, this dude is sick. Mm-hmm. Like, look at his fingers on the wall. That's fucking crazy. And I remember watching that trailer over and over again, like, oh my God, I can't wait for this movie. Look at this shit. And I read every article and I saw Jar Jar Binks a lot and I was like, oh fuck. I was reading stuff about him. I was like, oh fuck. But, in the trailer, he looked cool. And then I sat down, and the Phantom Menace is incredible for like 20 minutes. And then Jar Jar Binks shows up. And it's just like, what the fuck? And this is the same thing we have here, where it's like, they don't show this boy in not one commercial that I've seen. I think they will hide him even after the film comes out, because this is one of the most problematic things ever. I told Tatiana this off air. I feel like no one told this man no at any point during this. He said in interviews, he said, I came to them, this joint's gonna be 3 hours. When Disney bought the company, he's like, I ain't give a fuck. I already told Sony it's gonna be 3 hours. Bitch, this shit gonna be 3 hours. And they were like, all right. And so I feel like no one told him no, not once. And then he delivered this film, and everybody involved in the marketing, et cetera, was like, fuck. You know what I mean? And we got to deal with this. So they knew what was about to happen, because I promise you, the moment Spider shows up on screen, it is going to be, I laughed, but people are not going to laugh as hard as I did at this shit. Like, they call this little boy Monkey Boy throughout the movie. His name is Spider for some reason. And they call him Monkey Boy.
No, like that ass verbatim.
Call him Monkey Boy. So I'm sitting there like asking Tatiana, why would the Na'vi call him Monkey Boy when in the first film they were called monkeys by the white people?
Derogatory.
Derogatory. So is it like them taking the word? So basically they're sitting there calling this a white boy Nick.
Why is this Tarzan looking ass nigga?
Yo.
Like, again, he is a centerpiece to the film, and
blonde
I'm
dreads.
trying
terrible blonde
deeply as time has gone on since we've seen it. I am deeply concerned that I'm not understanding why he has been the centerpiece besides Jake Sully Part 2.
It's like Jake Sully worse Part 2. It's like the worst version of Jake Sully ever Part 2. And
it's like for everything to center on and anything in any of the themes, the many themes of this.
He's involved in them all.
Why he's involved in all of them, and why? And why is there's no one else involved in the one human? I mean, there's humans throughout. They're sprinkled throughout. But listen to that. Let's think about this for a minute. The one human that's all up in the sauce. Because there's other humans, but they're either the antagonist or they're the little bit of people here and there that are actually helping Jake and friends, right? But besides that, there's no humans that are like in the sauce like this little boy. And I can't even call him a little boy because he's like 20-something years old. But you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, in the movie, he's supposed to be like 12, 13.
No, he's not. The fuck he is. He look like he's 16 years old at least.
Yeah, I don't know how old the boy is.
He looks like Tarzan Jr. Are you serious?
Yeah, he definitely ripped, and he a little kid. But he's it's been 5 years since they shot this movie, I think. So he's much older now anyway.
Okay.
I feel like someone like Michael Harriot or someone will have a long ass thread on why this is so terrible, and it's just like I don't even have to have a long thread on it. I just feel like it is. I mean, I want to see Harriet's thread on it, but it's just this is white saviorism. Like when I'm sitting there watching the film, I'm just like, oh shit, look at that. They put in a little white boy, so everyone, all the little young kids who are watching this will have someone to emulate.
I thought the point was to learn about the Na'vi and their make-believe world and emulate and understand that nature is amazing and, emulate some good shit. Emulate this 7-foot tall being that doesn't exist that's blue. Not this motherfucker with ratty ass dreads. Are you serious?
I like another note I had when I left the film was that this film feels like so many moments of why. I actually saw Don Will say that about Barbarian, which I have not seen yet, and I wanted to see, and then he was like, "Yeah, this film is just so many moments of why." I felt like this was so many moments. Like we talked about the frame rate, why? We talked about why is Spider. Oh my God!
Let me ask a different
the mystery
question.
of his fatherhood is answered very quickly in this film, and it is his parentage, and it is one of the biggest moments of why that I had throughout this movie, and why I said that evil is rewarded for some reason in this movie. And yeah, what were you gonna ask me?
I was gonna say, well, let me, and I hope I remember. Let me ask you a different question. I'm just so exasperated. I'm very much exasperated because I really want people to understand. Like we are really thoughtfully addressing major concerns and not just major concerns, but we're really addressing the film as a film. This is not a hater perspective. We did not go in there saying, "Oh, this film's gonna be terrible." Not at all. It was the opposite. I mean, at least from a technical perspective, fans of the first. So we knew from a technical, oh, this shit was going to be great. Was the story going to be there? I don't know. But hey, I'm fucking here. I want to see it. We want it to be here. I thought we wanted to be there. And it pains me to see so many, and I don't know what it is, man. And I don't care how this comes off to the people who are listening, who may be other critics. I think you're lying. I think... And I'm going to speak to the camera when I say this. I wish I was on TV right now. I think you're fucking lying when you are sitting here making this like this is the triumph of the century. There are so many things about the lack of comprehension when it comes to the execution of basic story where I'm like, how could you with a straight face say this was it? This was the pinnacle of James Cameron's career. Are you dead ass?
Terminator 2? The Abyss?
Like, I just don't, and again, if it's just, and the reason why I'm just so, once again, just so heated about this, if it's really because you are like, yo, this looked away, this made me feel away, okay, cool. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where's the substance? This looks incredible. There's nothing that looks like this film. Nothing.
But
what are you getting out of this film besides that?
Those frame rate choices are so interesting to me where I don't. It doesn't.
But that's a. If you took that, okay, that alone, did that take? let's say this, Ben. Let's be fair to me, and this is my opinion. Let's be fair. I agree that the frame rates were fucking out of control. But did that mean the graphics were bad? No. Did that mean what you saw looked? When I say looked, I mean it didn't look like it was from fucking 1999. No. And so I'm saying I want to be very fair. What we're talking about is it's
No, that shit looks stunning. Like that whale looks, and we see a lot of these whales. Those whales look like they're alive.
The details are the detail. When you talk about the detail of a character, a thing, a place, whatever, they're there.
But
if that's all you're there for, you won.
On that point, right? Cameron, and once again, in his egocentric interviews, and it hurts me to say this shit because I love him. Even when that man went up on stage and said, "I'm king of the world," when he won the Oscar for Titanic, which I thought he was bugging. I also was like, yo, this man just made $1 billion with this shit. Fuck it, Fuck it, white man. Say it. I'm king of the world right now, right? Fuck y'all, rest of Hollywood, suck my dick, basically is what he was saying. So I feel it sometimes, but
when you make that much money and you that you can say shit like
and
that.
You've been shit on your whole life because that's how he is. You've been shit on, and then but by that point you're successful, so you don't really need it. But anyway, I feel it sometimes. But watching this, I'm just like,
it's disappointing. Let's be clear. This is disappointing. At least for me. I'm not going to speak for BenHaMeen. I will speak for me. This was fucking
highly disappointed.
Okay. This was fucking disappointing. And again, not that I sat here and I did not go in here expecting the best film ever in life. I just expected a good film. Somewhat. I had one thing to go over and go off of, and that was Avatar 1, which had its own problems. But hey, you know what? Different experience. It was new to me. I guess that newness is gone. And I'm like, all right, you can't trick me with the graphics no more. Where's the story?
And that's the thing. Beyond that the story is, like you said, an amorphous blob, beyond that the story takes all these wild detours that I do not feel like contribute to a main theme or a main through line.
Or cohesive.
As much as like, it's like, well, let me show you this. Let me show you about whaling. Let me show you about...
It's very much, let me show you... Oh, we on Pandora, my nigga. Let me show you the whales.
Yeah.
Oh, let me show you the birds. Let me show you these pterodactyl looking ass niggas. Like, that's what it is. Let me show you. And that's cool. Is that what this movie is about? Let me show you Pandora. All right.
Yeah, but
who cares about all this other shit? Who cares about Jake Sully? Who cares about all this other shit? Show me Pandora. Put it, like you said, put it on Disney Plus, or not even Disney Plus. Make it a IMAX 15-week situation where it's called The World of Pandora, and it's just about swimming around in the fucking ocean, seeing all the wild shit. And maybe you could put you could even put a fucking Pixar-esque story to it. That's an hour 45. About a fucking fish that loses his father and is trying to find his way home. It's called Finding Nemo. But it's just like, there was better ways. It's just a why. It's a big why, and that's why I'm so loud and adamant and concerned and whatever adjective you want to use.
I think,
and that's why I want to be clear. Where I'm not trashing it like this was the most horrible experience. It wasn't. No. It was an exasperating experience.
Yes. And I think
there was things I liked, but it was exasperating.
I think something that you said earlier that I really want to touch on again is that you can't fool me again, right? And the first time everyone walked out of that film like, wow, that was really Dances with Wolves in space. That was really a white man taking on the champion role of an indigenous people and somehow saving them when none of them can do it themselves, which is what happens in the first Avatar. And so you're like, all right, that's fucked up, but damn, that was dope. But you cannot pull that bullshit twice. You cannot pull it twice with an even worse approach, an even more offensive approach, where it's just like, wow, you really have...
We're saying you can't pull it twice because we have the knowledge of the first. This is 15 years later. A whole generation is now here.
Yes, and a whole
generation... And I think
this
Gen Z particularly is harsher on bullshit.
Who's grown up, like knowing about appropriation, who's grown up knowing how terrible blackface is, where blackface is exposed in, online social media constantly, where all these type of things are always being questioned openly now.
Yeah.
I just don't get how you return to those same themes. And we haven't even talked about the rest of the actors, but there's a lot of white people playing people who are indigenous aliens. So who are styled and as we would say, present as people of color even. Like when you even compare Jake Sully's avatar, who looks like Sam Worthington, so it presents as more of a white, straight-haired avatar compared to someone like Moat, who is played by CCH Pounder with a thick nose and thick lips.
And you can see, and that's another thing. What's that called? Etymology? Like when you see, what is that called? When you see the, like how people say you present black because, like you said, maybe the shape of your nose or your lips and this like that. That's presented within the Nazi itself, and that's where I'm just like, like when people are like, well, they're make believe people. I'm like, but then why were they animated that way? Why can I see the distinct differences between when something is animated against the model of a white person versus the model of a person
and
of
then
color,
even why is Jake Sully called like a demon, in this film because people consider him to be able to describe people, the white boys. Why did they? It's like I can't get over them calling him Monkey Boy and them calling him, and just I cannot get and that's the thing, because no one has seen the inclusion of Spider in any of these commercials. They have no idea how wild it is that there's this little Tarzan white boy hissing and shit at them.
I was ambushed by this little nigga. I said, who is he? Who did he come from? And he was there the entire film.
And then his arc is so wildly questionable.
It's
all right, we're gonna have to get into a bit of spoilers right here. We're gonna have to get into.
Oh my God, Ben, I don't want to say this. I want people to feel the pain when they go see this shit.
Because I don't feel.
We can't tell them.
Because Wakanda Forever is in theaters right now. Like they don't have to see this shit.
All right, Ben, if you want to tell them that, let everyone clear the way first. Hey, BenHaMeen's about to say something that's gonna be a spoiler. This is your warning.
This is your warning. We'll even take an ad break right here.
This is Yvonne Chapman. I play Javon on Kung Fu's CW. When I'm not on set, I am listening to For All Nerds.
This is Niambi. When I'm not busy doing the acting thing, the writing, drawing, illustrating, I'm listening to For All Nerds.
This is Shannon Houston, writer on HBO's Lovecraft Country, and you are listening to For All Nerds.
This is Malcolm Spellman, head writer, Falcon and Winter Soldier. You are listening to For All Nerds.
It's Ihoma, writer for Lovecraft Country. When I am not creating, I am listening to For All Nerds.
My name is Damon Lindelof. I'm one of the writers of Watchmen, The Leftovers, Lost. And when I am not sheltering in place, washing my hands, and sheltering from squids, I am listening to For All Nerds.
This is Kate Herron. I'm the director of Loki, and you are listening to For All Nerds.
All right. Now that we're back, Spider's father is Colonel Sanders. I don't even know that nigga's name. The evil colonel from the first film, Stephen Lang. Quaritch? Is that his name?
Yeah, that's what you call him, Colonel Sanders.
He's a colonel, and he's a racist. Colonel
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken.
Yeah, Stephen Lang's character from the first film fathers Spider before he gets murked out.
Prepare the shit for ludicrous speed. Sorry, I had to finish the quote. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
But
Spaceballs.
This is the spoiler part, because this is another thing that has not been presented in the commercials.
Yeah.
Stephen Lang, but I thought I knew this because I was waiting for him to show up. So I think this has been mentioned that Stephen Lang is in this film. But how he returns is Stephen Lang.
Oh, it's on IMDb. It's public.
All right. Well, Stephen Lang returns as an avatar now. His memories and personality have been put into the body of an avatar along with some other Marines, and they have all been shipped to the planet because they all got murdered off in the first one, and so now they're back for revenge. But at the same time, he's fathered this little boy that he does not know about. So a large portion of this movie, since it's dedicated to family and wayward children, is about them trying to reconnect. This murdering ass motherfucker from the first film. And like I say, the first one was just fresh in my mind, so I just watched him say, shoot. When Michelle Rodriguez was trying to escape and her ship was already hit, and he's like, nah, fuck that. Boom, and blows her whole ass up. So it's like, this dude is a horrible villain. You know, there's nothing about him where, and he
There's
comes
nothing redeeming.
back looking for revenge. Like,
there's
you
no
did
redeeming
dirt,
quality.
You got murdered. You fucked around. You found out, and you still want revenge after that. So there's no redeeming qualities. But for some reason, there was a moment where I wanted to turn to you in this film, and I wanted to be like, yo, am I supposed to feel for him and Spider right now? Because they're spending a lot of time making me think I should feel for them. I don't give a shit about either of them, but they're acting like I should. And so
There's been a lot of...
we already talked about the wailing. We talked about all the diversions, but a lot of this film, not only is it spent to the relationship between Spider and Jade Sully and in their family, it's spent on the relationship between Spider and his wayward, now Avatar racist father. And
he's such a racist.
He's like the most out of control racist. I mean, it's just a continuation of the first film. He was an out of control racist in the first film. He's an out of control racist in the second film. It does not stop. And we're supposed to feel for him.
I was going to say there's actually a lot of scenes like that where they're damn near looking at the camera like, don't you feel for us? And not just Spider and him. I mean, like all the characters. There's scenes where they're like looking at it was a very much they look at the camera and say, now please clap. And It's just like, I don't feel it. I don't feel you. I'm not with you right now.
I'm not with you at all. And so because you have this racist inhabiting an Avatar in a Navi's body with a son who's attempting to inhabit a Navi's body, fighting against another white man in a Navi's body. There's a lot of people I really just don't give a shit about in this film. And then when you have other Navis who are supposed to be indigenous Navis played by actors like Kate Winslet, I just have a lot of questions. There was a lot of ways you could have done this, I feel like, and I just feel like a lot of ways they did it weren't the way.
Oh, you just could have not did it.
I mean,
no one says no to money, right?
No one says no to money.
Mr. Cameron, apparently.
I do not feel that this is going to be that thing. I've seen a lot of threads talk about how don't doubt Cameron. I saw this one dude. He had like a 20-point thread. I mean, he was some whatever person, but they were talking about how all kind of things. Talk about the existentialism of the world and how we're in a world that is basically subjective. And so if you think a certain way, things will happen. And Cameron is going to bring about spirituality again and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like,
I think you're a D writer. That's it. Y'all a bunch of D writers and y'all a bunch of liars, the lot of you. And is it the access? Is it someone throwing you bags of money? Like, why can't you just be honest with people?
And and then one of my big problems with Hollywood, like as a creator, and we've talked about this a lot, like, and I never will say anything is terrible because I know how hard it is to get things on the screen. And I feel like while this story is a hot mess, I do feel like, cinematography, etc., are amazing, and technology you're pushing forward, shooting in water, all these different things. Like, you're pushing a lot of things forward that I'm like, okay, that's great. But when you have these white men just doing whatever they want and no one saying, yo, think about the ramifications of what you're doing. And maybe if we had some people of color in power positions right here, we could tell this story in a way. I actually said this. I felt like this film would be like if Black Panther was centered around Everett Ross. Like, that's how I felt watching this film.
That's pretty accurate.
Because it felt like a film where they're trying to talk about colonialism, but I'm following the perspective of a white man.
Yeah.
And a bunch
I'm
of other
again,
white people.
We're doing this again. So.
And then you have, I can't get over Zoe Saldana's character being portrayed as such a angry savage, really is what I want to say. And
she has a lot of fire. She's just a fiery spirit.
And that's the slur that's directed at her character and all of the Navis. And it's like they live up to it. And then at one point when they're living up to it justifiably, Jack Champion, Spider, Monkey Boy over here is looking shocked at them.
Looks at her like, these savages.
Yeah. But
the
just
same
a minute
boy
ago,
that wants to paint himself in
him.
blue. Yeah.
Everybody wants to shout out to the late, great Paul Mooney, right? Everybody wants to be a nigga until it's time to be a nigga.
Listen, this stuff just hits different. This stuff hits as a Black American, and again, all Black people's experience around the world is not the same.
No.
Particularly as a Black American, this shit
As
just
me.
don't hit the way y'all meaning James and friends. This shit don't hit the way y'all think it was supposed to hit. Or maybe it is supposed to hit the way y'all thought it was supposed to hit. And I'm just like, I'm not receiving what you have delivered at all.
No, at all.
No. So again, I can't say I enjoyed my time. I can't say I had a bad time either. This was something to behold from a visual perspective. Visually, I thought nothing.
You think it slaughtered a bunch of fishermen too, like and also visually there was just things that were goofy too. You mentioned when you said the slaughtering, that's where the goofy stuff started popping up in my head. There was stuff, and I said once again, things that when this happens too often, when there's things that you are laughing at that's not supposed to be funny. This is the second time. This, like I said, the same shit happened in Don't Worry, Darling, where it was some Looney Tunes type moments happening when people are getting murdered, but it's Looney Tunes level of action where it's like just ridiculous. I can't believe it's made it all the way, and it looks good, but it's just the situation is so Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I hear you. No, but there was just between BenHaMeen laughing at a part that was clearly, and this is not like, oh, this could have been taken as it meant to be comedy. No, this was clearly supposed to be a very spiritual, serious ass scene, and my man in the blue sitting right next to me, rolling his fucking head off. Enough where the other critics in the row started laughing too.
No, the whole theater, dog, wasn't just everybody was rolling.
But I said the row, which was reverberated to the other rows. But my point is, that's when you know things have gone south.
I started it
because from that point, and not to say that no one else noticed these things, but it was the first time it was just a visceral reaction from several people, and ever from that point onwards, and this was maybe the first halfway point. There's like 5 halfway points in the film. The first halfway point, from that point on, niggas was laughing at shit they was not supposed to be fucking laughing at. And BenHaMeen was leading the goddamn charge.
I laugh. Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there like, bro, what is going on?
I'll say it. They talk to these whales, and when it's something they say.
I want to talk about some other cool stuff. It was cool seeing Carmela from Tony Soprano. Edie Falco was in there.
Shout out to her. Doing
she plays
the most
General Ardmore. She was doing them. To be a more mature general that was sitting there, like, getting it in. And
I'm gonna say whatever. This is a pointless spoiler, but I will say it. It made no ridiculous sense. When I talk about a retread of the first film, right?
Yep.
At one point, Eddie Falco's character is flying in the exact same ship that the Colonel Sanders was flying in when he went on his bombing run in the first one, right? It's that same big-ass bombing ship they're both flying in, and both characters are sitting there drinking from their cup of coffee.
And how much coffee can you drink on a foreign, I
also want to know, where do you get a hot cup of coffee in a bombing ship?
Where do you? Well, no, I understand on a ship. There's shit on the ship. Okay, where do you find this cup of coffee in the fucking forest? Because that nigga, when he was in his little suit, Colonel Sanders, as you call him, he was at one point in the forest drinking goddamn coffee, and I'm like,
he was? As an avatar, he's still drinking the coffee?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's literally what I thought you were referring to. Because that's what set me off. I was like, he was in avatar mode drinking coffee, my guy.
No. Wait, this is how ridiculous it gets. No, I'm talking about a retread. I know
what you're talking about, but I'm saying this is something else that did happen as well.
That's terrible. But I'm just talking about how in the first film, my man is in that ship flying in, drinking coffee. And in this film, she's flying in the same ship, drinking coffee. It's like, okay, we get it. You're the gruff army person, but you don't both have to do... Jesus Christ.
Everything the exact same way.
And then beyond that, right, there's this moment, because we're talking about these fishermen and shit. At one point, what's his name? Colonel Sanders asked her, I'm going to hunt these dudes down. If you just give me the military, we can finally finish this. And then there's a scene missing in this 12-minute movie because she doesn't even say no to him. But in the next scene, this nigga's commandeering a bunch of fishermen who tell him, we are not equipped for this type of smoke. but then suddenly are fully equipped for this type of smoke.
Fully equipped. I thought y'all nigga was hunting Pandora fish.
These niggas, like, they one scene they tell him, yo, we're not ready for that type of smoke. And in the next scene, they are trying to bring
more than
all
ready. They are literally the smoke. And
like they bring the smoke.
It's like, how did we get here? What other good thing I want to say?
Fishermen.
Shout out to Trinity Jolie Bliss, who plays Took. Just like Sizzler says, the babies are innocent.
Yeah.
Took is innocent in all of this.
Yeah, super innocent.
Babies are innocent. Love Trinity. You did amazing. I got that for you.
Yeah. That was, wait, which one was Took?
The smallest.
Super innocent. Yeah,
kid.
super innocent and very cute and adorable.
Yeah, Jake's youngest.
If not for fucking Spider, I would have loved her. But because Spider was all in the film as well, it was taken away from Took. And also the mystery of what the hell
Dancing,
was going on with
all in the video.
Also the mystery. I'm so happy he never really did dance. The mystery of what was going on with Sigourney Weaver's character, which I won't spoil because
which is still a fucking mystery.
It's still a mystery because the movie doesn't even really tell you. You gotta assume shit like Jesus or something. Because of that mystery was going on, it took away from Took, and Took deserved more. Yeah,
Took is my MVP.
Yeah, for real. Okay? Took is really my
That's
MVP
the only thing that made proper sense throughout this whole. Again, I call it an odyssey. Throughout this whole odyssey,
that's the thing. Like the man talked about it like that. He talked about like this is going to be, because of how many of them they were gonna do. He said we had to have the whole story outlined before we even started on this, And the first, like the next one's already shot, already shot in the can.
Hey, BenHaMeen.
Yeah.
What story? Like once again,
that's what's so wild. That's
what story?
That's why, like, I wasn't even one of those people like, why are people talking about Avatar, any of that? I went in with fully, like, even after rewatching the first one and being like, this is a hot mess, I was still like, all right, look, Terminator to Terminator 2, there's like, I don't even consider each one, but all right, I mean, Jesus, the man did Aliens.
You keep saying that, see, but
he
this
did
is the
Aliens.
Thing. Sigourney Weaver, she's there.
I know he did Aliens.
He did Aliens. There's Sigourney. There you go.
Like do you know how many times I've seen that movie?
Listen, sir. He's
Aliens.
The iconic nature of his filmography is not going away. What is though is this review of Avatar 2, because I think we may have reached critical mass about what stuff we can talk about. Because again, I also don't want to make the same mistake and retread shit we've already talked about at lengths, because I want to make sure we are giving people the full breadth
racist.
of what we really understood and come away with from this film. That being said, Ben, I gotta ask you the overarching question: would you recommend Avatar 2: Way of Water?
Oh no,
The Way of Water.
No way. I mean, look, they're faded. Get out your. I mean, I wasn't faded enough. I'll say that. I was faded enough where I was rolling. Like I said, I cried laughing inappropriate at so many moments. And I'm happy that I did set the theater off at that one moment, because
you did, but then after that, people were laughing without you. Like at parts that weren't supposed to be funny. And that's how I knew it was off the rails.
Yeah, it was fully off the rails. I just let it be known that it was off the rails, and everybody was like, all right, fuck it. Everybody was sitting silently knowing it going off the rails a long time ago.
And that's what I'm saying. Why is everyone lying? These people who are saying this is the biggest thing out of since sliced bread. Like, why are you lying? Are you just waiting for someone else to tell the truth and say, hey, yo, this shit was great. Like, this shit didn't make no sense.
That's a point that I didn't get to make earlier, and I will make this right now, right? That is one of my things that I learned about Hollywood, and it's a problem that I have, but I've also grown to understand it in ways, right? No one who, especially once you, like, not even in journalism, but once you get to the level of the creative side and you're actually working in Hollywood, no one will criticize anyone else, because they all might work with that person one day. So they'll never openly say anything about anyone, especially someone like James Cameron, who has so much power in Hollywood, where if you said anything about him, he could crush you. And that's the thing. Like, I've had people, because I do work in Hollywood, and I've had my mentors and people above me be like, yo, don't say that on
shut
Twitter.
The fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. Because, like, I've called out somebody's film, and they be like, yo, what was the point of that? It was a bad movie. You ain't need to call it out like that, right? The only time you need to call out things is when they're super problematic. And they've also told me, yo, say it on your show, because you will explain yourself at length on your show and people will get your point. Versus a tweet where it's just some harsh, funny, quit shit and people are like, ha ha, and then you get the retweets, and then, you know, if someone actually saw that, it'd be a problem for me. So in this instance, it's like that, right? Now, I love Mr. Cameron. I'm sitting here like, motherfucker, you made Aliens. It's even like when I ran up on Damon Lindelof and I was like, yo, dog, you made The Constant. It's one of my favorite episodes of television ever.
Damon's one of the rare people where you told him to his face, hey, yo, what the fuck? And he said, okay, well, listen. Like he took to a point. But when I say also, there's a difference between trashing someone and giving criticism.
Yeah. Yep. And I even at the same time, I told Damon, I was like, because I love The Constant so much, and I love the first episode of Watchmen, I'm going to give you grace. But I'm just like, yo, I hope you know what you're doing with this, because you're opening a big can of worms with this Watchmen show.
What did he say?
He was like, I spent 3 years making this show. I hope I know what I'm doing with it too.
Like, gracious. Yes. And he, for like, he could, to many people, he could be a legend. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And but what you're doing is not disrespectful. And that's why I'm like, I need the D-writing to stop.
Yeah. I love Mr. Cameron. I mean, like I say, Aliens, I've seen it way too many times. Terminator and Terminator 2 are two of my formative, life-changing films for me. Like, I just think he is one of the greatest ever. And even Abyss, I mean, Titanic, on and on. Like, these are just so good. And I think that the first Avatar, even it's like, when I rewatch, I'm like, ugh. But when I saw it in theater, I'm like, oh my God, technically this is the sickest shit I've ever seen. You know?
Facts.
So this was, like you said, disappointing. Because I really wanted to go in here and be like, yo, look at this fucking 3D. And at points I was like, yo, look at this fucking 3D. Oh, why'd you just, fuck, man.
That's what I'm telling you. It took you out. I just put my head down. What I recommended, listen, just what I said earlier. You want to see something that looks fucking cool, have a blast. You want to see some goddamn fish and some other niggas jumping around, 7-foot-tall blue people, have a blast. If you want a cohesive story, I don't think you're gonna get it here. That does not mean you're gonna necessarily not have fun. If you want something that's not long, this is not for you.
Yeah, like,
because there were so many things that didn't make sense, the length started becoming
what kid is gonna sit through this? And then what kid is going, like, there's moments in this where if I had like anyone younger than 12, I'm not taking them. End of story. There's moments in this where I'm like, ain't no way you're seeing that if you're younger than 12. I saw shit like this at 12 and I shouldn't have seen it. There's moments, and I'm just violent moments, not sex. Just pure violence.
There is no sex.
No. No.
The first one alleged had implied sex?
No, they get down. They smash.
Oh, they did have it. Yeah, no, but this one didn't have none of that.
None of that.
Just violence.
I mean, gory at points.
Tons of violence. I like I said, I think we've said the vast majority of what we need to say.
Yeah.
What I've just never been so exasperated in a long, long time.
But I
think, I do think that, and again, I want to hear from what everyone else has to say.
That wasn't racist, though. That's the thing, yeah.
It's not, but not at all. Yeah. I want to hear from people who have to say, even if you feel completely differently from BenHaMeen and if you want to have the conversation, let's hear it, but also in a thoughtful manner. We did this incredibly thoughtfully because we see, as BenHaMeen accurately expressed, like, you never, just from a creative standpoint, shit gets hard. It's hard to make. Maybe not James Cameron's perspective, but for everybody else, shit is hard to make. This takes a lot of work. This is still someone's livelihood, their life, their this, their that, right?
Years of your life were put into this.
Right. And it's not just James, right? There's all the animators and everybody involved, right? I want to be clear. We're not shitting on none of these people.
Who don't get paid enough.
We're talking about the specific pieces of this film and how we felt about it, how we liked it or did not like, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have a comment, whether it's for or against, please be thoughtful in your response to us. If you got it, oh, y'all just haters, thank you for watching. Have a great day. That's all I got.
Yeah. Beautiful gowns. Oh, yeah. No, I really want to hear from people. I really want to talk about this film some more. I think that it was hilarious because I've been, over the last couple of weeks, I've still been interacting with some of the recast T'Challa people who are just out of their mind for the most part. And
Are you just going to let that go, Ben? I mean, like, let that...
No.
No.
But the funny thing is, I've seen, you know, as they move the goalposts around, because I don't even interact with these people, but I was watching on Twitter some of their thoughts, and a few people have been like, oh, Avatar is about to come out and make people forget about Wakanda forever. Just like...
Cow plus blue equals 5. Like, no correlation.
And
again,
even
good
if
luck
this
to you
movie
in life.
was that good, it wouldn't, but this movie ain't. But no, I do want to talk to people about it. I would love, because I mean, I can't wait till Monday when people could talk about Spider and everything that was going on with that. So please hit us up, like, my God. And I mean, the Colonel Sanders and everything that's going on with him, and fucking, yo, like, they really were like, yeah, feel for these guys. And that was another last one that James Cameron was talking about, how he was trying to hate on the MCU, and you saw about how Thanos wasn't that well done. And I'm like, first of all, Thanos is fucking incredible. Like, the Na'vi and all that look incredible. But I actually cared about Thanos. You know, there's a difference.
Thanos has a story arc.
A great
He
one.
doesn't drink coffee in the forest.
Like, Sully doesn't even have a story arc to me in this film. Like, he ends up pretty much in the same place that he ended the last film. Literally. I mean, literally.
All of that.
Wow. All right. I think that's it. Yeah.
That
One
is
last
it.
thing?
The only thing we didn't touch on was about the scoring, the sounds, the way it felt from a music or orchestral perspective. Did you feel anything about it? Was anything special to you? I felt like I kept hearing the same flourishes over and over again.
It was mad loud.
Like,
we were in a Dolby theater. I wasn't sure if that was the problem. It was wild, exceptionally loud, and that kind of took away from it. I thought the music was cool, but
it was giving me Jurassic Park vibes, but again, just the same fucking themes played over and over, and again, because we kept seeing the same scenes over and over.
Yeah, like, it was great, you know, like, as far as, like, you know, narrating, you know, when it was like there wasn't words and scenes, you know, and they're just floating through the ocean, and I'm sure the music was cool then. I was like, oh, but it wasn't something like
the commune with nature scenes.
Yeah, but I'm like, ooh, I need to hear that again.
Okay, all right, cool. That's all I had to say. So
don't see it in Adobe, because that shit was mad loud.
See it in the IMAX, right? If you're gonna go see it, see it on a big. I think that's it, Ben. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for joining For All Nerds. Thank you for listening to what we have to say and giving us a chance and all that great stuff. If you liked what you hear, and you must have liked something because you're still listening to me, please do me a few things. Please follow us on all podcast platforms. I don't care if it's the 10th podcast platform you've had us on. Follow us again, For All Nerds, in order to listen to amazing, incredible, stupendous reviews like this, as well as things you probably don't agree with, but who cares? Because we out here and we're doing the damn thing. We've been doing the work and we love this. Please follow us again, For All Nerds, on your favorite podcast platform. You can also follow Views from 616 or Views from the 616. If you follow For All Nerds, you'll automatically get Views from 616. That is our comics focused podcast, I'll say. We also have Castle Black, which is for Game of Thrones, but, you know, we might be talking about some fantasy there as well. But BenHaMeen and I, again, this is stuff that we do that we absolutely love. We love to talk about this, analyze it. We live and breathe this stuff too. You know, we're both writers, and we appreciate that you're enjoying yourself, and that's why we want the feedback and the interaction. Also, if you want to support us, we are an independently funded, independent media journalistic brand. Okay, we do everything ourselves. So there are a few ways to support us. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds. Every tier is a good tier. Every tier you get special privileges. You can also go to forallnerds.com, where you can get our exclusive designs that you'll probably see on our Twitter page and other places. Check that out, forallnerds.com. You can get some shirts and sweatshirts and things like that with amazing, incredible things. Also, we have our TeePublic page. We are both wearing shirts from our TeePublic page. I'm wearing my Wong was right shirt, you know, Wongers, as they call him on She-Hulk. And also, BenHaMeen is wearing the Would You Like to Fuck Around and Find Out Miss Minute shirt from Loki. If you want this and more stupendous, amazing designs, hit up teepublic.com/stores/ /4allnerds. Follow us on the interwebs at 4allnerds, at Views from 616, at Castle Black. Follow me, myself personally, at Tatiana King. He's at DJ BenHaMeen. What else, Ben? Twitch.tv /4allnerds, where we go live when Twitch decides to cooperate with us. YouTube.com /4allnerdstv. So if you want to see the replays and see our beautiful melanated faces, you can see it there. Anything else, BenHaMeen?
I do want to say about 4allnerds.com, our new merch site. If you are listening all this way to the end, please head over there. Even if you don't cop anything, leave your email, where we'll be sending out blasts to people and all kind of good stuff like discounts and everything. And we just want to, assimilate the fam in one place where we can talk to you all whenever we need be. So please head over to 4allnerds.com. Please leave your email, even if you don't cop something. But while you're there, cop some of this fire shit, because we got a lot of fire. Thank you all for the support. This might be it for the year. We might have one more or so episode before we out of here for the year. So happy holidays. Happy New Year. Hope to see you all in 2023. Love you all. Thank you so much. Peace. F Monkey Boy.
Fan Bros, F-A-N-B-R-O-S.